Welcome to Blame the Bible, a Bible study where we actually read all of the horrible parts of Christianity that they don't like to talk about in church. Today's Bible story is about burnt offerings. Barbecue. I can see why this book is so popular in the South. The outdoor grill chef in this story is named Jephthah. As we see in Judges chapter 11, verse 29. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. I'm gonna need one of them maps, like how they have in the Lord of the Rings, to see where all these places are. I don't know. Was that far? Did it take a couple days? I really can't tell. There's not a lot of context. Verse 30, and Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. Okay, so we could tell that Jephthah here really wants to have victory over these Ammonites. And he is praying to, the God of the Israelites, the one true, most powerful God, right? So he's expecting, yeah, my God can definitely help me. He's stronger than whatever God or gods those Ammonites are praying to, right? I wonder if the Ammonites had conquered over Jephthah, would it be their gods that continued on in the history books and everyone thought was the main, big, most powerful God? Hmm. Remember, history is written by those who prevailed over others. Now, I'm not exactly sure what kind of burnt offering he thought he was going to be making, but this story just seems a little far-fetched. Why in the world would he promise God whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return, I'm going to offer as a burnt offering? That seems very vague, right? And obviously, he's talking about something living, but if he intended to sacrifice like a lamb or a goat or something, why would they be meeting him at the door of his house? Wouldn't they be meeting him like at the edge of his property, like at the fence or something? Wouldn't they be outside the house? Why are these animals living inside the house? I don't know what he thought, but he sure did put his foot in his mouth. Let's keep reading. In verse 32, then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hands. He devastated 20 towns from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith. I need this map. I mean, Tolkien made maps. Can we now have maps? As far as Abel Karamim. I mean, honestly, some of these place names, don't they sound like where the elves would live or anyway, Lord of the Rings. Okay. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. Verse 34. When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter? What? A human came out and met him at his door? I thought it was going to be the cat. I thought it was going to be a cow. No, of course it was a human. The humans live inside the houses, guys. He knew it was going to be a person. Come on. Why would an animal be meeting him at the door? Okay, anyhow, she was dancing to the sound of timbrels. She was an only child. Okay, now they just laying it on thick. I feel like they just really trying to make us so bad for this guy. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. Mm-mm-mm. When he saw her, he tore his clothes. These clothes must be very terrible. Everybody tears their clothes. And he cried, "Oh no, My daughter, you have brought me down and I am devastated. Why is it her fault? He's blaming her. He set her up for, you know what? Ugh, this is too much. He tells her, I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break. Why did he make that vow to the Lord? I don't know. Did God specifically ask him? No, it says that he volunteered this. This is what he came up with off the top of his head when he made a deal with God. Okay? Ugh, this is tragic, y'all. My father, she replied, you have given your word to the Lord. Do me just as you promised, now that the Lord has avenged you, your enemies, the Ammonites. Really? She doesn't even mind? That is such a good, dutiful daughter. Wow. She didn't protest at all? Oh, she says, but grant me this one request, she said. Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends because I will never marry. You may go, he said, and he let her go for 2 months. She and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. Now, who buys that they just all went into the hills and that they just wept for 2 whole months? You don't think they were having a fun, good time, right? Going from town to town. Hey, y'all, right? It's like last call over here. I'm about to be sacrificed. Yeah, I don't think they were just weeping. Okay. So let me guess. So surely she slips away, right? She's in the hills or wherever she went, and after 2 months, he's gonna be like, "Where did she go?" And in her, you know, desire to survive, surely she would have absconded off somewhere and just escaped. Yeah? No. Okay. After the 2 months, it says she returned to her father. She's not very bright. And he did to her as he had vowed. He burnt her up like an offering, like she was a goat. And she was a virgin. They got to throw that in there. It was super important. Okay. Everyone needed to know whether the girl was a virgin or not back in those Bible days. Okay. It was like the most important quality of a woman to them. Ugh. From this comes the Israelite tradition that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite. Yes, what a noble gesture she made. She allowed her own father to burn her up as a burnt offering because that's the promise he decided to make to God so that God would help them have a military victory to slaughter these other people, right? Because their God was a true God and the other God was they worship some other God who just wasn't as strong, I guess. And so they needed to promise God something so that they could win. Because even though God was with Jephthah, he still wouldn't have helped them win over the Ammonites without Jephthah promising his daughter. Is that why? Why wouldn't God help them anyway? If they're like his chosen people or he's like the spirit of the Lord is with him, I just don't see why he needed to offer anything in exchange for God's help. I mean, none of this really makes a whole lot of sense unless you realize that these people who wrote this story down are not really recording history as true as it was. This is not a history textbook. It's a book of mythology and allegorical stories designed to propagate a certain religion or faith over others, and in order to create a cultural idea of unity under a certain particular God. It's to teach whatever lesson they felt was culturally appropriate at the time, thousands of years ago. So take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is, but the man murdered his own daughter, okay? Don't blame me. It's in the Bible.